Welcome everybody to the next episode of the Sonos PC Podcast with Robert Alms here on YouTube and www.sonospcpodcast.com, my website. Well, woke up to a completely smoke-covered city today, like most people on the West Coast, and doing a little research, I thought that we could go back in time a little bit, specifically around 2016 and 17 when there was this kind of smoke cover going on throughout British Columbia and Alberta, heading its way down in the States and coming up from the States at that time, much in the same way that it is right now from Oregon, Washington. And the story in regards to the masks, of course, we all know where this originated from, but this may be one of the only reasons I would suggest to anybody to actually wear a mask. With the amount of smoke cover that's going around here is pretty hazardous, especially for somebody who has some kind of asthma or pre-existing condition for breathing. So let's go into that. First of all, I should say, of course, as always, thank you very much to the loyal followers who are always continuing to watch, and all the brand new subscribers who've been watching and sharing all the videos. That's very humbling for me, and I appreciate that more than I could ever tell you. So once I get into the meat and potatoes of this particular episode, I'm going to kind of preface things as I typically do, and as we always like to talk about, the motto of what this show was originated on was do your own research. So I'll give you some foundational stuff, a lot of stuff you may already know, but gentle reminders are not a bad thing whatsoever, because it's easy to have short-term memory. And I don't want that to happen. And maybe there's some redundancy in what I say, but I do that on purpose for everybody in order to take a look at it and go, oh yeah, now I remember that. Kind of what I like to do. So back in 2016 and 17, as I mentioned, a lot of fires, hundreds of them. Well, interestingly enough, there was a lot of talk around this, and of course mainstream media, as we know, would never talk about this as the focus of attention as to why these particular fires are happening. These are not lightning caused. Okay, there's the odd one, of course, here and there, but the vast majority of fires are, or at least the ones originally in 16 and 17 in BC and Alberta, were ignited near pipelines. Now that's not a coincidence. Now I was going back into a story of the $870 million Rockefeller Foundation fund that has been used in order to annihilate the oil and gas energy industry, specifically in Alberta and of course connecting provinces. Now, we know how many projects have been canceled by the liberal libtard government and allied with Quebec, and I have nothing personal against Quebec. I have a lot of friends from there who live there. I have a lot of friends who used to live there, live out here in other parts of the country and down in the States. A lot of snowbirds down in Florida. And I'm not generalizing this. This is a overall Quebec thing. But when you have a province that continually rejects pipeline projects or large projects which would create thousands, if not tens of thousands of jobs directly and indirectly from a pipeline. I'll just use that as the main project. That benefits all of Canada. And considering the Maritimes, places up north, the territories, they're very specific oftentimes in terms of being, if one industry goes under or begins to fail, then the vast majority of jobs in those provinces just disappear. And obviously we're talking about people having the ability to have a home, to feed their families, to clothe themselves and their families. They don't have that, so they have to look for other means. While welfare is not a lifestyle, as much as the liberal government and any other communist government wants to do to you. So, as in previous shows, I've mentioned to those people who have no idea what communism is, and the socialism is the word that's typically used in order to kind of put a less of a harsh slant on it. Socialism, fascism, communism, Nazis, that's a cult. Okay, it's not an ideology, it's a cult. It's a means to control people. So I'm going to have to, again, give an overview, which hopefully everybody who's going to watch this show uses this as one tool in order to show to the unawakened or who are just, let's say, non-brain functioning individuals at this point in their life, what communism, socialism, fascism, Nazis really are. And it's not the people on the right. It's the people on the left. Okay? I've said this before. If you leftists move towards the right, you'd become more right. Okay? That's fact. And apparently fact is not something you enjoy. But too bad. If I offended you, I don't give a damn. I'm going to offend you all day long. That's what we're going to do. We're going to provide fact. For those who wish not to take it, too bad, so sad for you. Live in your mom's basement. Become part of BLM or Antifa, George Soros funded. And to speak of that name, which I've used many a time, people who are in the know that George Soros and his son Alexander are middlemen to the Rockefellers, to the Rothschilds, to the actual quote-unquote ruling families of the world. And that ruling family term is only because of the amount of money that they apparently have. Okay? Well, when you're stealing it from everybody on every country, well, I guess that's what you have the ability to do. But money still doesn't make you right. It still doesn't make you powerful. So let's go into this $870 million that the Rockefeller set up in order to get rid of the energy industry in Alberta and neighboring provinces. The main city in all of that tends to be Fort McMurray. And when we talked about these fires, Fort Mac, as we call it in Canada, is really the epicenter of everything that happens within the energy industry. And of course, tens of thousands of people come from not only within Canada, from all over the world to work there in different industries. So when the fires were there, you saw really an exodus of a lot of people because of the fact that they had to evacuate. Well, interestingly enough, Fort McMurray, a town at this point that may be somewhere around 100,000 in population, numbers vary depending upon what's going on or not going on there, has a Muslim population base of 10,000 and the largest mosque in all of North America. That's an interesting note. Okay, so you've got cities like New York, Los Angeles, Toronto, Houston, Dallas, millions and millions of people. And a town of maybe 100,000 people in northern Alberta has 10,000 Muslims and the largest mosque, 150,000 square foot complex there. Explain how that works to me, because I am not computing it. I'm not here to say Muslims are bad people. That's not what I'm generalizing here. But I find it an interesting footnote that the vast majority of fires started in and along pipelines. And you're seeing anarchists, and I'm going to put links into this show, as I do for the other shows, of people in Oregon, Washington, specifically out of Spokane, carrying gas cans. And I will put my money, I will put my life on the fact that George Soros paid foundations somewhere onshore, offshore, is paying for these arsonist anarchists in order to initiate these fires. It's also a footnote for everybody to see that these kinds of things all of a sudden blow up, to use that term, just before an election. Another interesting footnote. Take that into account. I will put the links for those people who have been caught on camera down there. So this is not just stuff I'm making up. I don't make up stuff. I verify everything. Unlike as I told everybody in the previous episode, My distant cousin, Anderson Pooper Scooper Cooper, from the worst network on television, CNN. Lies and propaganda. That's all it is that comes out of that guy's teleprompter mouth. And going back to George Soros, this is another bit of information I'm going to reveal now, which I've done a little bit on social media this week. And that is, George Soros comes from the same country, Hungary, that my mom originally came from, God rest her soul. And my family is a very well-known family in Hungary. And I won't name our family's last name, but if you do a little research, as I finally did not too many years ago to find out all this information, because it wasn't given to me as a child. And honestly, it really doesn't matter to me in that respect. I'm just like everybody else. I'm a person. I love my country. I love my family. I love my friends. I love where I live, and I love the patriots out there who are fighting against all of this. And George Soros and his family for generations, my family fought and still fights their family to this day. That's 100+ years of generational fighting. And my family was well known for being very honest people, and I had 2 people within my family assassinated because of their honesty and what they were trying to do for the people of Hungary. So I can speak from firsthand information. I don't speak out of my bottom anatomy here. So anyway, just a little bit of side information there. So anyway, back to all of the Muslims up in Fort Mac. Okay. There's been a lot that's been going on, and of course, for those who know, M103 was initiated, so literally no one can speak against Islamists, Muslims in Canada. And the carrot with that is that you could end up in jail. No. When you're speaking truth, I don't give a damn what the repercussions may be from a libtard government that is caught up in so many scandals. Try whatever you want. I'm a patriot. I will fight till my dying breath. And I know there's a lot of people out there that I've seen and learned about in my connections on social media that will do just the same. So there's a bigger amount of us than there are of you liberals and Democrats down in the US, okay? But I know you're all funded by the same people. Soros is the go-between. Rockefellers and Rothschilds tend to be the money people in all of this. So, in all of that, let me just go to my notes here so I don't particularly miss anything. Supposedly Fort Mac is maybe coming back around a little bit, but I think that if you speak to Albertans, and I have so many friends out there who will still tell you that Alberta is far removed from returning to any kind of form of prosperity in any way. People are moving out in droves. People are even talking about moving to the US. I don't blame any of them. I hope that doesn't have to be the case, and I will do what I can in my power with others in order to ensure that all of our provinces and territories will always stay here. But I will not get in the way of a province, or even call it Western Canada, territories, or whomever decides that maybe they need to create their own country, much in the same way California is looking at creating 3 different new Californias because of everything up and down the west coast of the US, from Washington down to California, that's all demon rat Democrat run. All these people got in by rigged elections, so it wasn't fair. I don't blame these people for thinking this way. I'd be right on that too, because I used to live down there. So, anyway, Let's get into the meat and potatoes of this whole thing here before I kind of leave you with something, a theory that I came up with a couple of years ago that was verified to me not that long ago. So anyway, I mentioned the mask wearing. Well, in Parksville, Qualicum Beach on Vancouver Island, the link will be in this show, and the link states in full, and I'll read a little bit here for you, and you can read the entire amount later in the link. So COVID restrictions, mandatory vaccinations are outlawed and nullified by common law assembly. Okay, very, very good news. This just happened, and essentially it states that citizens are encouraged to resist police state measures as officials are threatened with fines and imprisonment. Those areas have stated through the Charter of Rights and Freedoms, which we all have in Canada, and the Constitution gives us inalienable rights. Okay? No government, no individual can step on those. Those are our rights that we live by. Okay, and I have to keep reminding people that these people in government are employees of us. We pay for them. So they cannot dictate to us anything. If I don't want to wear a mask, and I'm going to let you know, I did this in the previous episode. I talked about walking into Walmart and Costco, where it's apparently mandatory to wear a mask. Nope, I was the only one, and they didn't hassle me. Well, again this week, I walked into Real Canadian Superstore and to Marshall's, where it's mandatory, and again, nope, no wearing of a mask. So you tell me, people, why you really think that you should be wearing a mask when it's not mandatory and your rights are being trampled upon. Thank you all to all the people, and I'm talking about throughout North America, who touched base with me on that particular post, and that one I put on Facebook, fake book, hate Zuckerberg, and were 100% on my side, and I heard the stories of those who were doing exactly the same thing, so kudos to you guys. So anyway, on this one, this is newagora.ca, and this will have the entire story in regards to the Parksville Qualicum Beach situation that says no mask wearing. Okay, so that will be there. And this is obviously a big thing because InfoWars, which is really the tip of the spear and has been for 26 years in the world of providing truthful news to the world, Alex Jones show, which interestingly enough, I was on a call with InfoWars on Thursday. And Deanna Lorraine, who has a new show there Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday evenings, and she was running against Nancy Meltface Pelosi down in California for a Congress seat. We talked about some stuff that I asked a question in regards to, specifically around these indictments that we've heard about that are coming down the road, and if it's really going to happen, and going after the head of the snake versus just all the little people like the Clintons and so on, who we all want in jail, obviously, but it's the money. You take care of the head, the rest kind of follows. So with that, I'll put the InfoWars link to that specifically as well, to the Parksville situation, and I'll let you go to it to do your own research. So the last thing, because I won't go into a lot of detail with that stuff because it can get a little bit on the lengthy side, I was going to tell you about a theory that I had which was verified. And that was a couple years ago. I theorized what was happening to all the Greyhound buses in Western Canada for that transportation link to be cut off. Where did they go? And I theorized, by looking at things very, very clearly throughout Canada overall, we have such a huge amount of illegal immigration. And the vast majority of those people, and I'm talking 95+%, are military age men. And you can go back to the whole ISIS reintegration BS. Okay, they're not a strong voice for Canada. Those are terrorists. Well, so are the illegal immigrants. And speaking of that largest mosque in Fort Mac, there are mosques being built all over Canada with our taxpayer dollars. Well, my theory has been that those mosques are actually terrorist training camps. And the buses, all whited out, oh, I'm sorry, that's so not PC. Oh, hence the name of my show. Those buses are being used to transport those terrorists between the terrorist training camps. And that the eventuality of all of that is going to be that those troops are going to be disguised as UN troops in order to attack the US from the Canada-US northern border. And the Mexican cartels will continue with those immigrant invasions from the south, funded, again, by George Soros and the very corrupt UN, United Nations. And that theory made its way to President Trump's administration earlier this year. And like anything else, I just throw information out there that's 100% verified. And I had people that I have connections with tell me that my theory got through to President Trump and his people, and that was verified. And I wanted to be wrong. The nickname Robadamus comes from Nostradamus. And that was given to me by friends of mine decades ago. And to this day, every prediction that I've ever made in public has come true, and I wanted that one to be wrong. But apparently it's not. So anyway, I'm throwing that out there now. Some people I've talked to personally, I've told that about, and that scared them, and I can understand why. But having knowledge of your enemy is a powerful thing. So you can take all the necessary maneuvers in order to counteract everything. So anyway, there's that, and a lot of other things to go into, and I think just the final thing I'm going to end off with here is anybody who has Netflix, I'm going to suggest, and I'm going to suggest this strongly, to get rid of Netflix and anything to do with Hollywood, because Netflix is promoting a show called Cuties, a bunch of 11-year-old girls that is literally a pedophile's dream show. And Sundance, the co-founder of the Sundance Festival, even gave Netflix an award for this show. Well, of course he did. He's a convicted pedophile himself. And I will put that link in there as well. So here you have the exploitation, continually, the exposing of Hollywood, that much more on a grander scale of what they're all about: satanic worship, pedophilia, and everything that is evil. So for all those pedophiles out there, like, I'm just going to say it, I've said it before, Justin Trudeau, his closest friends, his best friend, Christopher Ingvaldson, convicted pornographer, child pornographer. Ben Levin, very close friend, convicted of multiple charges of possessing child porn. You don't want to tell me that Justin Trudeau fits in that category? The logo from the Trudeau Foundation is almost a carbon copy of NAMBLA, the North American Man-Boy Love Association Pedophile Association. These are not coincidences, people. Okay? This is very, very troubling, and we have to fight this every single day. So anyway, again, I'll put the links in for all you guys to go and do your own research, of course, with all of that. And please, if you haven't hit subscribe and like and shared the show, please do. I certainly appreciate it. And the continuation of the uptick of the subscribers, thank you again so much for everything. And end off the show as I always do. May God be with you and your family in all things. And good night.